Darkpress presents Speak of the Devil, a laid-back magical chat with Adam and Darian Darkly.
I'm Adam.
And I'm Darian. Greetings, Darklings. Speak of the Devil is the expression of our own personal opinions on all things magical, mysterious, and occult. It will be at times irreverent and at times profane, because that's just the kind of guys we are. Tonight's episode is called Beginnings, because this is not only our first episode, but we're going to be discussing our own personal beginnings on our magical paths.
We're the proprietors of Darkpress, Devil's Conjure, Darkly's Curiosities, and the grand poobahs of the soon-to-be Darkly School of Witchcraft.
Woo woo! Our first question tonight is, could you describe your present magical practice and some of your influences? I'll let you go first, Adam.
So, describing some of my present magical practice, this would look like a lot of things. I would say, even, when I willfully began about 10 years ago, I was really working with, working in shamanic practice, healing states, healing practices, entheogens, and then really that stemmed over the years, even to my practice now, with like hoodoo, folk magic, like overall, basically practices of liberation, of revolution, of healing and beyond. Basically helping people claim their power. And as far as, and really beyond that, it would be, working with planetary magic, with astrology, with fixed stars, and ceremonial magic, like overall. I really love ceremonial magic and seem to get a lot of big results from that as well. But yeah, I love folk magic, which what would be considered sort of by some people low magic, and then high magic, like ceremonial magic, and really have this like really great duality, this balance between them. And then I would say, as far as my actual influences in my work, beyond my own personal mentors, some of the authors that have really influenced me over the years the most would be people like Orion Foxwood. His book Candle on the Crossroads, extremely informative. He has so many practices and sort of methodologies and perspectives in that book that have really helped me and inspired and influenced the work that I do now in folk magic. He really has a core and an origin himself, or themselves in root work and southern root work and folk magic. But they also talk about basically working with the Fae and different forms of magic overall. And so it's a great book. Of course, I would say, personally, I always like Mastering Witchcraft with Paul Hewson. And then, really beyond that, there are a ton of books, but, Shaman Healer Sage, so wonderful book on shamanic healing, shamanism, and energy work, things like that. So those are just a few of my influences, to name a few. What about you, Darian?
I like to think of myself as a bohemian witch. I don't espouse a specific path. I think of magic more as a technology than a religious practice, though I do work with gods, primarily Greek and Roman gods. I draw from multiple sources: Kabbalah for personal development, ceremonial magic for long-term effect, and Romany magic for getting shit done right now. One of my biggest influences has been Paul Hewson, that you mentioned, the author of Mastering Witchcraft, which, if you have not read, I highly recommend it.
Yeah, you introduced me to that book.
And I also really, really like Lon Milo Duquette. His book Low Magic was like a high point for me in my early practice. And let's see.
Our second question is, what first interested you in magic? What about you, Darian?
Like a lot of witches my age, I have to say the TV show Bewitched was a huge influence on me. It was in syndication already when I was a kid, so it came on every evening. I couldn't wait. I was enthralled with the thought of scrunching my nose and making cool stuff happen. Also, my parents were a big influence. They frequented a fortune teller in Paris, Texas when I was growing up. He was the coolest old man. He would read my parents' cards and taught them a handful of spells that miraculously worked. I remember them telling me a story about them trying to buy a car, and they asked for his help, and so he sent them to well, they had been to a car lot already, and they were turned down for a car. He sent them back to the exact same car lot and told them to talk to the exact same salesman, but he told them what day and what hour to go, and when they did, the same man sold them a car.
That's awesome.
He really helped them a lot, and I remember admiring that as a kid. My mom is a gifted healer, and my dad learned to read tarot and cast astrological charts from his aunt. So I like to think of myself as a third-generation tarot reader.
That's awesome. And I would say, like, as far as me, what first interested me, got me interested in magic, basically. There are a few things from my childhood, beyond, like, some of the miracles that I saw, like with weather, spooky stuff with spirits. I would also say, when I was young, I would hear people talk, of course, adults, sometimes when they don't want a child to hear something, they'll, like, speak in hushed tones. But me, as a kid, I was always even more curious about what they were saying when they did that. And so I remember, like, my grandma, talking to someone, I believe it was my mom or one of my aunts, about, like, a great aunt, basically, who was, like, a poisoner, a witch. And it was said that, she would poison people. But I actually found out later on that she was a village healer. And there's this whole story where she was basically connected to a coven. She tried to leave, and the story goes that basically after that, they would visit her at night, hold her down, and basically beat her with, like, thorn briars. And so there are different things like that. Like I said, like that story and different miracles, things that I saw that really got me into thinking, or really brought me to the place of knowing that there was something else, something at the time that was seemingly unseen. Sort of like a world that I just hadn't quite touched yet, or didn't quite have access to yet. Yeah. Now it's time for the burning question. This is where we will place your random or personal questions into a hat and draw them as wild cards. Tonight's burning question is, why do you guys choose audio over video for Speak of the Devil?
That's easy.
Because we're naked. That's all the time we have for this episode, Darklings. Make sure to like, follow, and subscribe on our Instagram to stay up to date. That is the Speak of the Devil Instagram. Like I said, make sure to like, follow, and subscribe. If you'd like to learn more about witchcraft, check out Darkly's School of Witchcraft. There will be more information and info coming soon about that. Watch for new episodes of Speak of the Devil on YouTube, airing every Saturday night.
Next week's episode is called Witchborn. We will tackle a controversial question in the occult community. Do you believe some people are born witches? Don't miss it.